so completely different for myself and Mr. Davis. It really wouldn't be fair for Mr. Davis nor myself to be sharing the same fact finder, because as I said, we didn't even know each other at the time. My defense is that I'm a person with a disability. It's a neurological condition. At the time of this interaction with the security guards and all these things, I had already requested emergency transport via ambulance. So my exchange with the Portland police and all this that happened was after I said that my disability was triggered and I needed emergency transportation. The whole exchange and what happened with the police car and all those kind of things were after my identifying that I was having an episodic event of 3 words, central pain syndrome, and how it was life-threatening. And so to have Mr. Davis as a witness to that, drawn into this, detracts from the fact that, 1, I was on the agenda, 2, I was challenging their trespass exclusion policy, which they imposed the day before when I was on the agenda, and had been for over a week at that point. So that's what my status was. The person with a disability, the person who was on the agenda, the person who was obviously challenging their trespass exclusion policy that was since found unconstitutional by Judge Simon, by the way. So this is, the plot thickens. But Mr. Davis, as an observer and challenging his right to capture that experience as basically a member of the media, or whatever you want to get into that. So his issues are under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, and Article 1, Section 26, the right to consult for the common good, and all those kind of things. And so he's going to be talking about free expression and access to government and all those kind of things, and not being held in secret and all those kind of things. Where mine is completely different because I was, as I said, on the agenda. They imposed this on me as a person with a disability, and my physical reaction to that, and how these things played out chronologically, which happened first, which happened second, which happened third. And by getting the fellow who was filming that into my series of events, really confuses my timeline. So that's what I'm saying. So having my defenses under ORS 659A142 with the city being under that as a public accommodation in a form of the government and those kind of things, that's completely different than Mr. Davis' defenses as having, I'm assuming he's going to try to defend his charge. So, but I would assume, I can only speculate, that his would be under Article 1, Section 8, and free expression and access to government under the Oregon Constitution and under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Mine isn't about that. Mine's more under the Americans with Disabilities Act, RS 659A, Oregon Administrative Rules, Chapter 839, which is the Bowley interpretation of 659A. Right, so that's where I'm at with this. And one more point that I can really sum this up. Had the Rose Fleet this summer not kept the MAX train up, I would have had a trial on the City Hall case back in, what was it, June? Right, so anyhow, the state was prepared to prosecute this exact case we're talking about, right? And so for me, the fact that I couldn't get across the river and missed my court date means that we're now scheduled this now for September 19th. And the state wants to join Mr. Davis's case at this late time and extend my November 25th case from a year ago to October, which gets into the speedy trial thing. And as a person with a disability, I'm going to make all these appearances. And today, for having made my court appearance, which I didn't want to get up today to do this, but trust me. But anyhow, I'm here and in my best form. But I have to go now today, whenever I'm out of here, over to the Justice Center to check in. So every day I do this, I have to go through a metal detector here, and I got to go through it over there. So by making me have a dozen court appearances, and now we're going to put it off to October, really raises for me the speedy trial defense on the whole thing, because without getting into it, it's the impact on me as a defendant to go through the stress of the delay. Right. Okay. So I'm going to sit down. Thank you, Madam.
Last point that I should have made earlier, Your Honor. If Mr. Stull should wish to call Mr. Davis as a fact witness in his defense, or Mr. Davis wished to call Mr. Stull as a fact witness in his defense, that'd be very problematic for the jury and prejudicial for both parties.
Marion, you had something else you wanted to say?
Yeah, just one final point. I know Mr. McMahon, he keeps saying it's very permissive joinder. The legislature wants joinder. It's what we favor. And the state often makes that argument, but of course, that's true. And the court of appeals has said it repeatedly after a case is properly joined. I think Your Honor will notice that Mr. McMahon responded not at all or barely to my argument for not properly joined. Once they're properly joined, sure, it's very hard to sever them. But if there's nothing in the statute that allows to charge co-defendants with different crimes, they're not allowed to do it.
Two things really briefly. I disagree with Mr. Kelly's characterization that they wouldn't be able to call each other as factual witnesses. They can, and they could properly raise the argument that the state would go beyond the scope if the state's examination of that witness goes beyond the direct examination of co-defendants. I actually had a case about 3 weeks ago where it was two defendants, one of whom was accused of harassing the other defendant, and the court, I think it was Judge Lopez, actually granted joinder in that case where I think we're in an even more factually potentially prejudicial situation where one co-defendant was accused of crime against the other co-defendant, and that joinder was still granted, and they could have testified against the other person, but would have been limited by beyond the scope objections. And then again, the state can't compel the defendant to go into any self-incriminating information, so I don't think that those concerns are proper.
So which subsection are you moving to join under? A, B, or C?
I'm sorry, Your Honor,
Same or similar character, same act of transaction?
I believe A and B.
So same or similar character based on the trespasses?
Yes, and I understand if now Your Honor has dismissed that count, I think that they are still following the same act of transactions.
Okay, well, in the end, I think Mr. Marin raises some valid points as to joinder, but, I'll just cut to the chase. Even if they were joined and there was a motion to sever, under the circumstances, I would sever them, in part because the one defendant is pro se and has a defense, well, the primary offenses are not actually of the same or similar character or the same act of transaction. Even though there was originally a criminal trespass, and I'm not, legally excluding that, factually I think it's still part of the act of transaction. So the fact that I dismissed it is really not part of my analysis. But the primary offenses against Mr. Stoll are really not same or similar character or same act of transaction as the trespass on behalf of Mr. Davis. While they started out with a factual nexus, really you're going to be requiring Mr. Davis and a court-appointed lawyer to sit for a lengthy trial about charges over which Mr. Davis has no part, has completely different defense approaches, and it's a pro se trial which necessarily complicates things in a manner that I don't think will be efficient for the court to require Mr. Marin and Mr. Davis to sit through that entire trial. It would be more efficient to sever the trial. So whether I deny your motion to join or I join them and then sever them, the end result is I'm not going to have them tried in the same proceeding. I'm going to order separate trials.
I understand. Thank you.
So that concludes your part in this proceeding, Mr. Marin.
It does. Thank you.
I have an order here for you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Make them back and watch them trial.
Yeah. Well, maybe today's or maybe the other one, right?
Yeah.